One of the most perplexing features in Python 3.14, the long-awaited Python update, is the t-string. We already have f-strings and string templates, so what is the point of t-strings? SQL sanitization has been proposed as one powerful use case of this new feature, but the reality is we've had ways to sanitize inputs long before t-strings were ever released. So the question is, should you make the switch? In this video, we're going to investigate how we can sanitize SQL queries, compared to the old method of parameterizing queries, and determine in which situations, if any, you should actually consider using t-strings instead. I'll let you know now that t-strings can, in some cases, save hours of headache, but they're not always the right choice. If you want to learn why, stick around to the end of this video. Whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, and let's dive straight into it. The point of most user-facing software applications is to be interactive, and a big part of that includes taking input from a user to do some kind of function. As a developer, if you're expecting a normal user input, you'll prompt the user for their name, and they'll give you a real name, or at least some name that they want to go by. You of course use this name and any other information you've asked for, like a password, to look them up in the program's database and return relevant information. Unfortunately, not every user is a normal user. Some like to test your software for vulnerabilities, and one of the easiest ways to try to probe your security is a SQL injection attack. This type of attack typically involves a user inserting some text that is meant to be run as code inside of your program. A common demonstration of this type of attack is a drop table SQL statement. Drop table is at worst a mischievous attack. Sure, it can tank an application that depends on that table existing in the database, but no one really gets hurt. In the real world, a real attack will likely aim to extract sensitive data that you don't want to be extracted. Think of news about data breaches. These can sometimes be caused by SQL injection attacks on applications with next to no security measures in place. If you were to pass this raw string directly into your database connection, it will look for a user with an empty name. It doesn't matter if it finds a matching record or not, because it will immediately execute the next statement, which is telling the database to drop the users table. The two dashes at the end of the string are the attacker's way to comment out any additional code that you might be tacking on to the end of your query to ensure that it doesn't run. Obviously, as a developer, the last thing we want to do is take user inputs like this and feed them directly into our database. The premise of using t-strings to sanitize SQL inputs raises a question. If t-strings just came out with Python 3.14, how have we done it in all of the previous versions of Python? If you've worked with SQL in Python before, you're probably familiar with query parameterization. If not, in a nutshell, the goal is to separate any potentially unsafe data, like text from a user input, from the body of the SQL query itself. The way to do this is to use a placeholder character inside of the query to signify where the potentially unsafe text is meant to go, and to pass the values as a separate object. As a quick reminder, the problem with just using an f-string to build the query was that it put all of the user input directly into the body of the query, so the database has no way of knowing which parts of the message are intended by the developer or not. By passing the structure of the query and the parameters to be filled in separately, the database engine will safely handle the query and treat the parameters as variables, not as executable code. The exact syntax used for the placeholder variable varies slightly depending on which database engine you're using, but the premise is universal for all relational databases. Okay, so how is using t-strings different from this? T-strings are, in a way, a cross between f-strings and string templates. Rather than trying to explore the concept in abstract terms, I sometimes find it helpful to look directly at the object type and investigate how it's composed. Let's make our first t-string by prefixing a t to our quoted text, just like we would do for an f-string, and also just like an f-string, we'll enclose our variable in curly braces. First, we'll print out the t-string object to see what its wrapper looks like. We get back an object of type template, which contains a few attributes. Namely, there is a strings attribute and an interpolations attribute included in the wrapper. Let's look at each of these individually. Examining the strings attribute, we'll see that we get back a tuple containing two elements that look to be strings. I personally find it more readable if we print out each of the elements on their own line, so let's do that. It looks like the two elements are fragments of our original t-string before and after our variable insertion. Okay, what about interpolations? Looks like interpolations is an iterable containing objects of type interpolation. Within the interpolation object, we see both the value of the variable we passed it and the name of the variable itself. There's actually another attribute of t-strings that we can investigate that wasn't included in the top-level wrapper, but is included in the interpolation object. Probing the values attribute of our tstring, we get back the value of the variable we inserted originally. Tstrings don't build the final string we might want to display out on their own. They keep all of these components separate. If we just want to print something out to the console, this is kind of annoying to deal with, but in a moment we'll see why this is actually a benefit when it comes to SQL sanitization. To build a normal looking output from our tstring, essentially what the equivalent f string would print out, we'll use this relatively verbose string constructor. We're creating a list of all of our components, and we'll join them together at the end to build the final string. You might notice why we took a look at interpolations and values a moment ago. We need to pull the values from the interpolation in order to include them in our constructed string. I put this else block in at the end just for us to see if there's anything other than objects of type interpolation or string coming from the templates generator. When we call this constructor function, we get out the string that we would expect. Great. We've now done in 10 lines of code what f-strings could do in 1 line. Such efficiency. Okay, now that we have an idea of how we can build strings from the tstring template, we can examine why we might use this to sanitize SQL inputs. Let's quickly write out a function to do the same thing, but with tstrings instead. You should recognize the general structure of this function as it's essentially the same thing as our basic string constructor. A few key differences that I'll point out. First, we can throw in a quick check to validate that our argument is in fact of the correct type, and raise an exception if not. We have 2 containers now instead of just 1, and we'll see why in just a minute. We have a short switch statement to choose which placeholder we should use depending on the database engine. In reality, you'd probably want to use enums instead of strings here, and you might have a different database engine that you're working with, but the point of this block is to choose the correct placeholder. The last part is essentially identical to our original tstring builder. You'll notice one important change. Instead of appending the value from the interpolation attribute to the query components, we're adding it to a parameters list instead. I've added a type error exception just for the sake of completeness, but I don't expect that you'll need it, unless something changes with the template class in a future update. In that case, this error will remind you to update the function to respond to whatever changes were made. Our function will return the constructed query and a tuple of the parameters separately, as most database engines expect the parameters to be passed in a tuple object. When we test this function with our example SQL query, we'll see that it correctly builds the query with the placeholder character and the value we want to pass with our query to the database. And just like the old way of passing parameterized queries to the database connection cursor, we'll ask the cursor to execute our query and let the database engine fill in the parameters. If you're curious, this is what it looks like if we're connecting to a Postgres database instead of a SQLite one. Confirming that our database engine switch is working correctly by swapping in the correct placeholder. At this point, you're probably thinking, that was a hell of a lot of work for literally the same outcome. Why would I ever bother using tstrings over the existing tried and true method of writing a query template with pre-filled placeholders and just pass the parameters separately? For very simple queries, like in our example, I have to say that tstrings don't really bring anything new. In fact, they add a lot more work in that you would need to use an entire constructor just to build something that you could have done in a single line. For a while, I wasn't really sure why you would ever bother with tstrings to solve this problem, despite it being a proposed use case for them. Then I went back through one of my old database projects. This project involved users creating complex queries of a database that had hundreds of attributes and millions of records, tracking a detailed time series of a real-world water treatment plant. Here I've pulled in a scaled-down version of one such query to serve as a demonstration, but bear in mind that in the real project, many queries had dozens of parameters for the selected attributes, attribute aliases, filters, etc. On the back end, I used a dynamic process similar to our tstring builder to construct these complex queries from user inputs automatically. But even with automation, it's sometimes helpful to screen an assembled version of the query before sending it to confirm that the query is what the user expects, or to identify errors if it ran and returned an unexpected result. As you can see, although the query is safe in that it used placeholders in all the positions where a user had the capacity to provide an input, the query is far from readable. For example, it is not remotely obvious that the indexing parameter, time, is used in the select clause, 2 of the where clauses, and the order by clause. Though it is technically possible to match the position of each parameter in the params tuple to its relative position in the query, This is far from readable even for a query of only moderate complexity, like this one. This is where t-strings really shine. Though probably not perfectly readable, the t-string version of the SQL query template is a significant step up from the one that only contained placeholders. Depending on your project, you might be able to use even more specific variable names when you build the query. The trade-off, of course, is that you'll need all of those specific variables to exist elsewhere in your program, which they might not if they're being created dynamically from a configuration file or a user input. At any rate, there is at least some ability to use semantic names for variables, even when keeping things generalized overall. For instance, it is now much more obvious that the indexing parameter is being repeated in each of the query clauses, even though we're not naming it as time specifically. And for most time series database applications, variable names like start date and end date will naturally appear elsewhere in the application, so they can be used directly here. So to answer the question, will I be ditching normal parameterized queries for routine database operations? Honestly, probably not. The old way is perfectly readable if you only have a few placeholders in the query. And building parameterized queries the traditional way is significantly faster. However, in any projects where complex queries are being written or assembled, and they need to be screened to make corrections, t-string notation is certainly more readable than a query fully populated with nameless placeholders. In niche situations, they can seriously improve your ability to detect errors or mistakes, correct queries, or resolve issues elsewhere in your program. In this way, they can potentially save hours of frustration and significantly improve the quality and readability of your code. But let me know what you think. Is it worth it to adopt t-strings to handle SQL queries? Or is it better to just stick with the old way, even if it's not as readable? Drop your opinion down in the comments. Whether you end up using t-strings in Python 3.14 or not, if you've made it this far, chances are you're interested in becoming a better Python developer. If you'd like to learn more, check out this video that can help you write cleaner, more scalable code in Python. If you learned something, let me know by leaving a like, and maybe even consider subscribing. Peace.